Hello, Minneapolis, St. Paul. My name is Mac Antigua. I'm currently Director of Alumni Engagement here at Public Allies National Office. Greetings from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm here in one of our conference rooms here at the National Office. I like to use as a de facto studio, if you will. Public Allies, as you may already know, is in 23 cities across the country. So we don't have our own private jet, so we try to do our best to visually and virtually be with you. And so this is one of the ways we do it. I'm a Public Allies alum from class of 1997 in Chicago. So that's a long time ago. And was that people wooing Chicago or wooing 1997? I don't know. Woo, 1997. It was a good year, I think. So I was born in 97, right? Some of you are probably, I was born in 97. To be really transparent, I don't think we imagined back in 1997 there'd be a time where we would be communicating in this way. It's very humbling to think at that time, when I was an ally sitting in your seat, learning about this stuff, that you would be in 20 cities. So I just want to start by thanking Twin Cities for inviting me to be a part of this. I now work at the National Office. I've worked here since 2008. I work as a Director of Alumni Engagement, and I'll talk a little more about that work later, but the gist of it is there's 5,600 folks who've gone through the apprenticeship over the past 23 years, right? And my charge is to figure out how to make leadership development not just a 10-month thing, but a 10-year thing, right? A 10-generation thing. How do I connect you after you graduate to opportunities to advance your skills, career, and your network? And how do I get you all to work together collectively to keep solving problems together, to take on the challenges our country's facing? That's my job. It's a pretty tall order, but that's what I'm doing. And what I'm really appreciative is when I get to meet with you all, we get to introduce each other, because my hope is in just 10 short months, we'll partner up on some stuff. So this is sort of our first engagement. So thanks again for Twin Cities for letting me be present in your life. I also want to welcome, it's so awesome to see people beyond the Ally Apprenticeship here. I wooed our folks from MCTC intentionally because I think it's super awesome that we're including more and more people as part of this movement. So I want to thank you for being in this space with us today. So let me get started. I'm going to do my best. I have some slides. I know some of you are visual learners. And even though I just shaved this morning, looking at me is going to get kind of boring. So I'm going to try my best to switch back and forth. I'm going to do my best to DJ on the wheels of steel here on Google, to screen share back and forth on some stuff so some of you visual learners can get that visual look that you need so badly. So I'll try my best. Also, just to give you a heads up, the slides I share with you will be available. I sent a copy to Corey, so she can share that with you after. So don't feel like, oh my God, I got to draw everything down. I got to write it. Don't. Cool. We got it. We're good. So, cool. During this time, also, even though I'm communicating from here, I hope we have some exchange. We're going to have, it's not going to be me just talking for an hour. You're going to do some breakouts and do some stuff. So I look forward to hearing from you in your responses to it. Very good. So let me hear you. Are you guys ready to do this? We ready to go?
Yeah.
Oh my God. From here, that was like, yes, ready to go. What is up, Twin Cities? What is going on? Come on. I mean, the Vikings are 1-0. That alone should be excitement. That alone should be joy. Come on. Are you guys ready to do this? Come on. Let's go. We do this? All right. That was better. Better. All right. Let's keep going. I'm going to share with you a quick photo just to give you some perspective, a little bit about me. So let's get it going. Today, what we're going to do, it's gonna look this kind of wonky. We're going to do our best. I know this is like the admin mode of my PowerPoint, but this is the best I can do in sharing back and forth. But it should get the gist. We're going to talk about asset-based community development, and we're going to understand the differences between community building strategies, mainly ones that focus on deficiencies and then ones that focus on assets. So hopefully in our 45 minutes together, we're gonna break down the differences between that, and then not just talking about it, but we're gonna do it, right? We're actually gonna practice it together. So that's what we're gonna practice this stuff together. So it's not just hearing about it, you're actually gonna use this stuff with the people in the room. So I'm a big kinesthetic learner, right? If you're okay, so people who know my gig, I present, and then do you ever get DVDs and you get that commentary, right? So you're watching like a movie and then you hear the director, like you can switch on the DVD commentary part, right? And then like you can hear like the director going, well, in this setting, I wanted to make sure the clown had a blue wig because that represents oppression. You know, like you hear the commentary, right? So like during my presentation, for nerds about presentation, I'm gonna throw down some. Well, I'm going to do some activities because some people like to learn by doing, and then some people. So we're going to get a little bit about that. You're going to get like, I'm going to jump back and forth. So for you nerds, right? So Gardner has this theory about multiple intelligences, which means people learn in different ways. Some people are visual learners, some people are audio learners, some people are kinesthetic, means they learn by doing, et cetera, et cetera. Some people are musical learners. They like to learn. I don't know where this voice came from. We're getting super meta right now. But either way, I try to have all presentations that touch on that, even if it's virtual. All right, we're back to the real presentation. So be ready to move around. I know it's like, who's that dude on the screen talking at me? What's his damage? What's going on? But we're going to try to make this interactive as possible. So here we go. Let's get the party started. Let's get the jam started. So when we talk about asset-based community development, ABCD. What does that mean is we're trying to move from a notion of moving from community has needs to looking at a community has gifts. Pretty simple. You can look at a community and say, like, what's wrong here? That's one way you could do it. Or asset-based community development says, what's going right here? How do we amplify this? How do we make more of this? How do we connect more of this? Pretty simple concept, right? And the way we look at assets is we look at gifts and talents. We look at how people are organizing themselves informally. We look at things like social capital, and then we look at changing the institutions. Okay? And ultimately, why does ABCD matter? Why is it relevant to us? It's relevant to us because it's more sustainable. Okay? It's ultimately more sustainable. Okay, just want to make sure. You guys with me? I'm trying to get myself back on myself so I get my pretty face on the screen. You guys rolling with me? Say, hey, you with me?
Yeah.
All right, good. So let me just shift a little bit. Because I love it. I love how my computer's just frozen. Let me just keep talking if you can hear me. So, let me do this. Let me share you with this. If you imagine yourself, you gotta, if you see me right, hold on. All right. So asset-based community development. I want to imagine a community. I used to live in St. Paul, actually. I lived in St. Paul for a couple of years while my partner taught at McAllister College. So I lived there, I would hear things about North Minneapolis, right? Like I didn't know much, but you turn on the news, you'd hear stuff about North Minneapolis, right? And so when you hear the story of North Minneapolis, right? When you hear the story of North Minneapolis, right? Things would come up. And I just want to if you were to hear it on the news, I would love to hear a few comments from folks in the room who, when they hear North Minneapolis on the news, what are some terms or words that come up?
Violence. Good community.
Good community. Right. Violence.
Right. What else comes up?
Dangerous.
Right. What else comes up?
Dirty.
Dirty.
Right. What else comes up?
Good people.
Good people.
Good people. Awesome. That's good to hear. What else comes up when you hear the word North Minneapolis?
People don't care.
Right. Awesome.
Multicultural.
Multicultural. So I heard about poor. So I heard several comments, right? And so it might be similar to this map I show you on the screen of needs, right? Like if you see the map on the screen, I would go like, you could sub in North Minneapolis, you could sub in North Milwaukee, right? You could sub in west side of Chicago, right? I'm a Bulls fan. I grew up in Chicago. So I'm a Bulls fan, and like Derrick Rose is from Inglewood. You say Inglewood, right? This might come up. Right? This comes up, right? I know. I heard boos. I heard boos. I hear it. That's fine. That's fine. At least we don't chase away our superstars. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So these are terms that are out there that are used to describe it. And the thing about it is like you could describe sort of any challenge neighborhood has some sort of challenges, right? Unemployment, poverty, uninsured, right? And if that's the lens, if that's the story we hear about the towns we're working in, the communities we're working in, then that you're going to react in a certain way. Am I correct, right? Or the logic follows, well, if there is illiteracy here, then we need to fix that illiteracy. If there's poverty here, we need to fix that poverty. Now, in the comments that you all shared, probably about 9 or 10 comments, 2 of them were like, well, multicultural, and there's some really good people. So not to say that we all use negative terms. There were a few good terms, or a few terms that could be used positive. But the majority of the terms were looking at the needs or what's wrong with North Minneapolis, what's wrong with North Milwaukee, what's wrong with Inglewood. So just give you a sense, there's one map out there that's constructed of needs, right? We need to serve these needs. And so I want to share with you the ramifications of serving with something with needs are this, right? You hear terms like, ultimately the people start to, either that reside there or the people that are charged with supporting it, assume that there's deficiency, right? You need to be fixed. There's something wrong. So that's an effect of having this view. In turn, what that assumes is if people that are there, if it needs to be fixed, that means people are broken, right? That ultimately leads to local relationships that are damaged because we're assuming each other are broken, right? In turn, when we bring in money or resources to help the community, they're brought in through programs, right? They're brought in through narrowly defined programs. So we start losing a holistic possibility. And now we're just sort of like, well, let's get rid of this teen pregnancy thing. Let's get rid of this problem by using this program that fixes that problem. Who gets funded, right? Who gets these resources? It's probably the leaders in that community who are good at magnifying these deficiencies, right? You see this loop. If we're going to give this grant or resource to fix that problem, then odds are the people that are good at defining the problem will get the support. We ultimately create a process of failure and dependency, right? Ultimately leads to hopelessness, right? So that is one track, right, universe that if we just look at a community by its deficiencies, its problems, we ultimately look at, well, let's fix those problems. And that is a way that we, when I say we, because I've worked in the nonprofit sector now nearly 18 years, we have taken on problems in the community. Let me pause there and check with you. How does that resonate with you in terms of, have you seen this happen? Or what am I describing to you is like, Mac, that is a fantasy. I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to check in. I want to hear a few comments. Is there a sense of, okay, I see that at play, or I've seen that at play, and or maybe cries of shock or outrage. I'm not buying it, Mac. That's not how the world I've seen works.
Sorry, repeat the question one more time, Mac.
Sure, I'm just curious. I want to see, does that resonate, that map I showed you? And when I say resonate, it doesn't mean you're like, yeah, I support this map. I'm just sort of wondering, is that a map is that a way of looking at our communities that you've seen, you might have practiced yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that resonates with some folks?
Yep. Yes, it did.
Cool. Thanks again, Corey, for helping amplify, because sometimes it's hard for me to hear. When you write, when most of you, how many of you are new to working in the nonprofit sector? Just by a sound of applause. I want to know, are you new to working in the not-for-profit sector?
New to
Sound of
working.
applause. Awesome. How many of you are new, or no, sorry, how many of you have worked in not-for-profits as volunteers maybe, or as interned at not-for-profits before? How many of you had that experience? Awesome. I'm going to ask one more question. It might be pushing a little bit, so you don't have to answer if you don't want to. How many of you have used the services of a not-for-profit? To some degree, we've all used the services of not-for-profit. but some of us, have directly. Cool. Okay. So when you talk about the not-for-profit, I just want to get that sense of temperature, because not-for-profits, for example, when they go for funding from foundations, right? Foundations provide support. They use applications, right? They use proposals. And a lot of time, the first thing in the proposal they ask for is, tell us about the problem that you're trying to solve. Makes sense. If I'm going to give you thousands of dollars, I want to know what this $1,000 is trying to fix. Now, here's the thing. Amplify that practice year after year and populate that all around. I have to think that that creates a set of lenses that we are more comfortable having on than not. My 18 years of working in this industry lead me to believe that it's kind of like if you were talking to a fish in a fish bowl. You ask them, how's the water? The fish looks at you and goes, what do you mean water? Tell me about this water. I know what you're talking about, water. I have a belief, I have an experience, I've seen, that I think the dominant view in our field is that there are problems, we go fix them. And we're talking about asset-based community development. What I'm offering is there another set of lenses we can adopt and use alongside those lenses to take this on? 18 years. I was taught asset-based community development 18 years ago when I graduated from school. I would think 18 years later that this stuff would be more commonplace. It's not. It's not. Right? Now, when I explain to you the juice of it, the secret of asset-based, you're going to be like, Joe, obviously, come on. Are you serious? We don't do this? No, we don't do this. So I just illustrated for you probably what's the most common view of how we work in communities. And I want to be explicitly clear. My hope is when you walk away from this weird virtual experience we're having, this is that set of lenses I just shared with you. I want to invite you not to use those lenses as much. I'm not going to say never, because you need all your tools. But my invitation for you is to be aware when you are using those lenses that, wow, there's a problem. We got to go fix that problem. Okay? And let me share with you the other set, the other map that's possible. What if I said to you, instead of North Minneapolis, and some of you did say this, that actually there's some good people there. There's many cultures. In fact, there are individuals that are there. So there's the gifts of individuals themselves. There's associations. These are people that organize themselves without formality, right? Without, like, some might say they organize themselves not because they're getting paid to do it, but they just love, they have an interest, or they have a shared passion about something, and they organize themselves. And then there's actual local institutions, right? Those are assets in a community. And some of you, when I said North Minneapolis, you started talking about this. So some of you do think in this way. But what if I were to say, when we look at a community, we look at a neighborhood, when we look at a place, we start with, what are the gifts that are there? And real simple, again, I want to repeat myself, there's individuals, right? There's individuals, there's associations, and then there's institutions. If we're to make it real simple, like ABCD 1.0, every community's got those. Individuals, associations, institutions. The difference is individuals themselves, me, I've got gifts. Associations, groups that organize themselves informally, they exist. And then there's institutions, groups that do organize them formally because they have resources that demand formal organization. So examples of institutions: schools, churches, law enforcement, banks, business, right? Those are there. So every community's got those three things. And asset-based community development says, what if we start looking at those, what they do already well, and how can we move those forward? Okay, got it. Now I named those three things. Let me add another three things. So that's 1.0. If I were to go 2.0 on you right now, right? We would add that there's the local economy that's there. So how goods and services are exchanged and things happen, right? That's an asset. There's physical spaces. That's an asset in community, right? And then there's the stories themselves. The stories we say about ourselves, that is an asset, right? So 1.0 says it's individuals, associations, institutions. Advanced level would go into local economy, stories, and physical space, right? But today's conversation, I'm just going to focus on the 1.0 stuff, but wanted to share with you. That's sort of the overall gist of what we focus on when we talk about what are the assets of a community. Okay? We good? You guys roll with me so far? You get we're now moving to a different map? Yeah? Okay.
Do you get the difference between the different maps?
Yeah.
Got it? Now again, we talked about the story. You know, real thing I want to mention story. When I asked you, tell me the story about North Minneapolis. Tell me a story about North Milwaukee. Tell me a story about Englewood. There was things that came up. Poor. You know, dirty, illiterate, right? So when we talk about story, it's really interesting. I think story is actually more important than we realize. So I want to call attention to that, how important the notion of narrative and story is. Because even though it's kind of the advanced ones that we won't delve in on a personal level, I actually think it's incredibly powerful and important that as community allies, as public allies, we work hard on changing the narrative of these communities and actually telling the narrative, amplifying the narrative that these communities want to tell about themselves. So I just want to call put that away for like what I'm supposed to do as a public ally. Awesome. So moving on, right? The principles of this is, okay, Mac, I get that those are the core of it. Then what are you saying? I'm saying everybody has gifts. Everybody has gifts. That's like the first thing. Everybody's got something. And for asset-based community development to work, everybody's got to share it. You've got to unlock those gifts. You got to figure out how to share them. Most importantly, or the real advantage is how do you mobilize the assets of those who are most marginalized? Those that are written off, those who are not included. How do you mobilize those? Then from there, you're building relationships among community members, especially if they're mutually reciprocity, have mutual reciprocity, that they actually work both ways, that they're win-win. And ultimately, community asset and assets approach has community members, those that are inside, they have more role and power in local institutions. Local people are leading efforts. That's what happens when we try to lean in that way, or that's what we've seen happen, right? That's what sustainability means, right? That's what sustainability means. And so your charge as public allies this year, right, is to work in your organizations in that way, to work in your community in that way, where you're looking at the gifts and talents of all the people around you and figure out how do they get to share them, and how do you get to move them in a way that they actually get something out of it and the community gets something out of it. You all brokers. You all trying to make the magic happen. When I was a public ally, my charge was to organize the state of Illinois. When I say organize, let me be careful in AmeriCorps speak. It wasn't organized. What it was identify young adults and have them learn dating violence information, and then have them create their own presentations to connect with their peers, because they're going to know how much more relevant it is, right? That was my charge. And the premise of it, the reason why that was an assets approach was before, at the Illinois Center for Violence Prevention, that was where I placed, they had young people, when they talked about stopping violence, they had young people talk about themselves as victims. My brother got killed by gang violence. Feel sorry for me. Right? And the shift was, actually, how do we have young people be the actual practitioners of stopping violence, namely in relationships? More importantly, how can we have young people think of the better ways to communicate that peer-to-peer? And then when I was there a little longer, because I stayed on after my placement, we actually got them money so they could fund other young people on their ideas, right? We actually got our young people to meet with the state's attorney general to work on advocacy around changing the rules around stuff, right? We actually worked with our young people to meet with local police departments to work on reducing the criminalization of young people. Like, how do we change this perspective that when 4 young people are on a corner, it doesn't mean that they're going to cause trouble? There's laws that are set up that way, right? So even in my own placement, that's how I had to work, right? Or that's where I pushed my organization. How do we look at young people who was perceived as the problem or a creator problem, but actually an avenue, a partner in making things better, right? So that's an example of my own life, my own work, and that's the charge, right? You might be in your organization going, all right, they want me to do this thing, this project, in a certain way. And my invitation is have this filter going, how are we engaging the folks that we're with that's unlocking what they're good at, bringing forth what works for them, as opposed to you applying some solution to them. 2 maps. I want to check in with you because I know like our format might be weird, you know, and we're switching back and forth. I want to know, are you guys tracking so far the crucial differences between looking at one map versus another? I want to see if there's any questions people have or comments. I want to just check for, are we on the same page here?
Yep.
Same page.
Yeah?
Same page, good.
Okay. So far, so good. Oh yeah, let me dig deeper. We're going to talk about individuals now. We talked about individuals, associations, and institutions. For our time together, we're going to focus a lot more on what is the gift of the individual? How do we unlock that? And let me share you 2 maps again at play, okay? So there is a group called the Asset-Based Community Development Faculty, which is sort of a network of practitioners around the country. And I was lucky enough to kind of get in on it, right? Like you know, there's some people that are like really faculty. I was kind of like the guy that got people drinks. Hey, you know what's going on? Hey, what's up? Hey, you're right. But I was like in it, but I was in the room. Right? And what was really cool was I got to interface with these really amazing people that are leading this work. They're doing this work, and they would share their stories. So I'm going to share a story of Reverend Damon Lynch in Cincinnati, Ohio, who leads a congregation. Okay. Also, I want to tell you a story about the Cincinnati Welfare Office, and I want to show you 2 different maps. So in the Cincinnati Welfare Office, right, when people come and need help, their intake person has the person come in and get some help, right? And so they do an interview. And so I show in front of you, I actually transferred the survey that the intake person has to interview the person coming for help. And so during this interview, right, the person has to find out, does this person have inadequate housing? Yes or no? Find out if this person has a poor work history. Yes or no? Find out if this person has a lack of high school diploma. Figure out if they're pregnant. Figure out if they're a single parent. Figure out if they have poor communication skills. Figure out if they have unrealistic goals. Do they have a history of mental illness? They take drugs? They got family problems? Does this person have a felony record? That's the charge of the interview. Just surface these things. Yes or no?
Yes.
What do you think, or what might a person who's experiencing that interview, what does that feel like?
Yeah. Degrading.
For a person experiencing that interview, how do you think they would feel?
Degrading.
Inferior, degrading, demoralized?
Okay. Now here's the thing, right? I'm not here to throw shade at the welfare office because obviously that's a service that's trying to be provided, right? We're trying to unlock the resources and try to connect them. What I'm showing you is that is a engagement that's driven by a needs map mentality. I need to find out what's wrong with you so I can find the right solution. Because we got some solutions, man. We got a job training thing. Or we got a 12-step group for you to get off the drugs. We got this, we got that. So I'm not against the intentionality. The execution just sucks. You know, personally, it's a bummer. Because like you said, what we've seen, or what Damon Lynch has seen, was that the people who access that walk away from that meeting feeling worse. And how is this person going to even feel they have any agency to make things better if they have just been reminded of all the things that are wrong with them? And let's say they even get access to a great program that does move them on. My belief is then what we've created is a sense of dependency. Because now that person's like, all right, well, what's the next program you got for me? Let me know what's next. And that is not sustainable. Because no group, no institution is going to come up with every program that's going to meet the need of every person. It's impossible. It's not sustainable. This is happening in real time. Here's another map, or here's another way that you could engage, and what Damon Lynch has engaged with his group. So Damon Lynch, when someone comes for services at his church, soup, comes in for something, they assign someone from the congregation to interview that person. And they say, well, hi, my name is Matt. What's your name? And they go through a script. Gifts or abilities that we're born with that can change. Tell me about the positive qualities you have. Who do you give to? How do you give to them? Think about that for a second. This person just came in to get a handout, right? To get sustenance. And you're asking them, well, who do you give to? That is a powerful question. I mean, I don't want that to be lost. They are immediately going, I assume that you are able to provide and support others. That's the expectation here. That's how asset-based community development works. Don't miss that, right? Don't let that fall through the cracks of your mind. The second question they ask is, who do you give to? And this is a person that most people would look at them and go, this person has nothing to offer. How powerful is that if you could be the agent, the person that invites that person to go, what are you good at? What do you have? What are you willing to share? Life's a potluck, brother. What do you bring? And you can't say cutlery, because we already got cutlery. Right? Let me go back to what they asked them. Right? When was the last time you shared with somebody else? What do you give that makes you feel good? Skills or talents that we've acquired in everyday life, such as cooking and fixing things. What do you enjoy doing? If you could start a business, what would it be? What do you like that people would pay you to do? What are your dreams? At the end of it, they go, like, thanks so much for talking to as many people as we can. Our goal is to find a way to use these gifts in rebuilding our community. Can I get your full name or how we can contact you? Right? And then after that, in their common space, they put up that person's story on the wall of fame so that everybody can see what their gifts are. And they know that this person exists and that this person has something to offer. 2 maps. And I start with individuals. Our time together, I think, is going to focus on individual because realistically, that's probably your most powerful point as an ally. You're not all executive directors. You're not leading institutions. Some of you might be leading associations because you're very motivated and you might have groups that you organize on your own. Cool. But when it gets right down to it, it's your ability to execute one-on-one an assets approach that I think will make a difference. Is that clear? Good? So let's get some practice. Let's start doing it. What I want you to do right now is find somebody next to you or near you and get next to that person. You got to partner up. Somebody give you a moment to partner up with somebody. Do that right now. Partner up with somebody. It should be one-on-one. Ideally, somebody you don't know that well. You know, there's some new folks in the room. Partner up with them. All right? Do it right now. Come on, hurry up. We don't got a lot of time. Partner up right now. Go do it.
Partner up. Partner up.
Hey, Corey, let me know when everybody's partnered up.
Okay. Everybody has a partner? Yeah? Everybody has a partner? Everybody has a partner, Matt.
Awesome. So hopefully with you and your partner, you've introduced yourselves. Also with your, I forgot to say this, make sure you've got a pen and then something you can write on, like, you know, notebook, sheet of paper, because we're actually going to do some interviewing of each other right now. So make sure you have that.
Everybody has pen and paper? Good to go.
Is that cool?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So what I want you to do for this one is this. Between the two of you, figure out who's going to be, I'm going to give you two roles right now. One person's going to be peanut butter, and another person's going to be jelly. Figure out, and again, this isn't like a Cosmo quiz where this reveals who you are inside. It's just two different things. Who's peanut butter and who's jelly?
Peanut butter.
Figure out among the two of you. I'm going to be peanut butter. All right, cool. I'm jelly. Figure that out.
Figured it out?
Awesome.
You need to identify who's peanut butter and who's jelly.
In your partnership. Your pair.
Peanut butter, raise your hand.
Nice.
All right.
Jelly, let me hear you say, give me like a Smuckers. Say, hey, Smuckers. Smuckers.
Schmuckers. No. That's gross jelly.
That's the only one I can afford growing up. All right, so here's the thing. I've got a great side for you. Awesome. So we got peanut butter and jelly. So here's the role right now. If you're peanut butter, you're going to ask jelly about, jelly is going to be interviewed. So peanut butter, you're going to be the asking, and as you're asking, I want you to document this stuff down. Jelly, all your job is to do is just to talk as much as possible. Share. Okay?
Jelly?
Try not to first draft. You're not trying to come up with the right answer. You're just saying as much as you can. You're just trying to generate as much as you can. Is that clear?
So jelly is
Peanut
talking
butter.
in as much as they can, and peanut butter is asking the question.
That's right. Peanut butter and writing down these notes. Got it?
Okay.
Got it?
Hold on.
Here we go. All right. So here's the first question. Here's the first thing for you to do.
The first question.
Peanut butter, I want you to document and ask your partner about all the things or skills they have. We'll call this the gifts of the hand. What are skills or abilities that someone could witness you do? Right? So let me share a sample. One skill that people are pretty comfortable in presenting virtually. I'm pretty good at that. I do a lot of that. So that's one skill. Another skill that I'm pretty good at doing is I'm really good at, I can serve a tennis ball 100 miles per hour. So kind of random, it's kind of different. So what are the different things that people go like, oh, that person is good at this, they would say that about you? So peanut butter, document that. Jelly, think of all the things that you're good at, the gifts of the hand, things that you can physically or someone could witness you do. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
2 minutes.
The question is, what are skills that people have witnessed you do that you are good at? Okay, so
2
jelly
minutes.
that question, and peanut butter is writing it down. That you witnessed. That you.
Corey, we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. 2 minutes. I'm timing 2 minutes.
So they are right now.
All right. Thank Jelly for sharing.
Thank Jelly for sharing.
All right. Let me get your attention. So I want to hear from a couple peanut butters out there. Share with us, the group, what are the gifts that you heard? Give me an example of gift you heard. If you're not sharing, right? And if you're Jelly and you're like, whoa, I can do that too. Like hit your partner, like write that down. Do that too. Write that down. So we're gonna share a little bit, but if you hear a gift that somebody else has done, like I can do that. All right? Yeah, that's me. Make sure your partner writes that down. Okay? So let me hear from at least 3 peanut butters out there. I want to hear 3 different gifts that were shared. What are 3 different gifts that were shared out there?
Yep. So he wants to know from 3 different peanut butters, what was shared from your jellies.
Just one.
He said
just one gift.
One, at least one gift. Were you peanut butter?
Just one gift.
No. Well.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that this Jelly in front of me here is a good reader, and she is very
awesome.
Very sociable. And
just one.
I like that. No, I like the spirit though. I was like, my Jelly does all this stuff. Look at all my Jelly. This is the best condiment in the room. This is the best condiment in the room. All right, so
Miguel,
just real quick, if you're like, if you were like, hey man, I'm good at reading, right? If you're a Jelly and you're like, you didn't say that, slap, hit your partner. I was like, hey, write that down. Put that on the list. I'm good at that. All right, give me another one. Give me another peanut butter.
My Jelly said that she's really good at cooking, or she was told she's good at cooking.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, tell me, follow up, Jelly. What is your best dish?
My best dish?
Or the dish you're most proudest of?
It's a creamy lemon artichoke pasta.
Awesome.
oh, potluck.
I like how the room was like, ooh, I can't wait for that tomorrow. Good. Nice. Thanks for sharing that. Give me one more.
One more. Raul.
First guy is really good at giving advice.
Really good at giving advice.
Awesome. So again, if that's like, oh, I'm good. I'm good at write that down. Good. So great example of a different variety of gifts that people have. We just did 3. I'm sure there are 300 in the room, but we're going to move on to the next gift. All right. So peanut butter, you're back at it. You're going to interview. You're going to have about another 2 minutes. I want you to ask about the gifts of the head, meaning what are the issues or topics that Jelly knows a lot about. So what are the list of things that you have knowledge of, or it could be a skill, right, or an ability that maybe is less physical, but it's more mental, like that you know. So for example, I have a lot of knowledge about facilitation. I'm pretty good at, like I know I'm a nerd about how groups convene, how to make that happen, right? I'm also a nerd about pop culture, right? Like I know too much about pop culture. So like I can nerd out on that stuff with other people. So, when I use the phrase nerd out, that means like you need to do a passionate conversation with someone about, that topic. So peanut butter, I want you to talk to Jelly for about 90 seconds and generate the list of issues or themes or topics that Jelly knows a lot about. All right? Is that clear? Got 90 seconds.
Issues, themes, or topics that you know a lot about. So a lot of knowledge. Like what do you know about? Well, specifically.
Okay.
Sports. Max said pop culture, sports. Jelly's still talking. Is Jelly still talking, Mac?
Yes.
Jelly is still talking. Jelly show. Ready?
Ready? 2 minutes.
90 seconds. 90 seconds. Go.
90 seconds. Go.
Go. All right, let's bring it back.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Bring it back. All right. I want to hear from 3 different peanut butters this time. I want to hear what is a gift of the head. You know, what is a knowledge or theme or topic that your jelly knows a lot about? I want to hear 3 different peanut butters. Give me 1 each. What do you got?
Thaddeus, Johnny, and Tamira. I tell those hands first.
Reed knows a lot about the philosophy of justice and religion.
Cool. Awesome. Hey, we're going to play the specifics game really quick, Jelly. What specifically about philosophy? Is there a certain, is there an era, right? Is there a genre of philosophy that you are more knowledgeable about? What would that be?
Philosophy of religion, definitely.
Philosophy of religion.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Give me another peanut butter. Share me another one. Come on, give me more.
Speaking of religion, my jelly knows it's good at world and religion history.
Oh, religious history.
Neat. Thanks for sharing that. Let me go deeper a little bit. Is there a certain era of religious history that you have more knowledge about, or maybe an expertise in?
Like the earlier days of
The earlier days of Mesopotamia.
Cool. Oh, I love that specificity. So good. Thanks for sharing that. Give me one more from another person.
My first jelly knows a lot about the Lord, and my second jelly is very spiritual. Knows a lot about spirituality.
Knows a lot about spirituality, and the other jelly knows a lot about the law.
The law. Cool.
Oh, war. War. I thought I heard law. Oh. Law? I had it right. It's a law.
Okay, great. Great. I want to follow up about law a little bit. Is there a certain expertise? Again, a little specific for me. Is there an area of the law that you're more interested in, or you have a passion for? Can you share that real quick?
Is there an area of the law that you're really passionate about? Constitutional law.
Oh, wow, cool. You can break down some Marbury versus Madison, right? Or break down some Charles River Bridge or Warren River Bridge type nerdom. By the way, those are the only court cases I remember from American history. So I need to check it. Either way. So you notice what I did was I played the specifics game, and I didn't do it to myself. I was like, Mac, what about pop culture do you know a lot about? I know a lot about late night television. I studied a lot of David Letterman in college, right? So like, I actually devoted, I don't know if this is good to admit, but I took a course on pop culture, and I spent one semester watching hundreds of hours of David Letterman to outline what is the rhetoric of David Letterman. So I was an expert on late night television. If I talk about sports, probably about like Chicago sports. Like I read the blogs a lot. I spend too much time reading about 16-year-old kids who have yet to commit to Northwestern University football. Like that's kind of depressing when you say out loud. Like I care about high school sophomores hoping that they sign with Northwestern. And the reason why I say specifics is the more specific you are, that might open the door for people to go, oh, I did, that might pique some more interest. Like, it's one thing to say I'm interested in sports, but once you go more specifically and share exactly what you're about, or maybe the area, that might even open the door for people to learn more about you, or maybe say they have a connection in a different way. So that's why I'm just going more specific. Awesome. We have 2 more rounds about this interview. So peanut butter, for 90 seconds, you're going to talk back to your jelly and ask them, what are the gifts of the heart? Okay? So the gifts of the heart mean, what are issues that you're most passionate about? What are issues that you're most, this might speak to purpose. This might speak to your dream. All right? Like these, and again, we're getting more vulnerable, right? Because we don't usually share this. If I were to share an example from my own life, I'm definitely more passionate about equity, especially around opportunity for women. And this has become more real that I have 2 daughters, aged 8 and 6. Right? And so I'm much more sensitive now to figure out how they can grow up in a world where they have access to opportunities and chances, and that their contribution will be recognized, right? And that they're resilient and have safety, right? Like now 10 years ago I didn't have that as much. Now that is much more real for me, right? And so I'm much more sensitive to that. I pay attention to that stuff. So that's one thing that matters. That's something that matters to me, right? So that's one example for me. You probably wouldn't have got that over coffee. You probably have to dig deeper. I'm asking you, peanut butter, dig deep with your partner, jelly. For 90 seconds, identify 1, 2, or 3 issues of the heart. What's most important to jelly?
So identify issues of the heart, things that are really important to you, things that you're passionate about, things that you dream about, for 90 seconds.
Go. All right, let's bring it back. Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Bring it back, bring it back.
Bring it back. Bring it back. Okay. I would love to hear from 1 or 2 peanut butters, different ones. Always want to hear new voices in space. Would love to hear what is something that your jelly was passionate about. And I totally recognize getting a little more vulnerable, right? So sharing something a little bit deeper. So thanks in advance for sharing. You might want to check in with Jelly. Is it cool if I share with this? Because I know this is between you and me. So before you raise your hand, check in with your partner. Is that cool if I share this out? So we're getting a little bit more, spot here. So let's hear 2. We got 2 out there?
We have 3.
Let's go.
My jelly is passionate about racial equality.
Racial equality.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Give me another one.
Well, my raspberry and apricot jellies are passionate and organic because they're interested in food justice.
So both food justice? Food justice.
Cool. Awesome. And organic. And expensive. Awesome. But worth it. Worth every sweet non-GMO flavor. What else? Give me another one.
My jelly is
very passionate about particularly violence against women.
Violence specifically against women.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. So far we've asked, in your interviews on a one-on-one level, using an assets lens, we talked about people's gifts that they're able to do that other people witness. Then there's gifts of knowledge, and then there's the gifts of the heart, right? These are the things that motivate me. These are the things that drive me, right? We're gonna have one more gift I want you to interview, Peanut Butter, and that gift is about the gift of, we call it human, which is talk about the relationships in your life that are most important to you. Okay, so you might have time in 90 seconds to talk about one or two people, but I want you to talk about who is a person in your circle, right, in your own life that you depend on, or that supports you, you support them, and talk about why that relationship is important to you. Again, it's getting a little deeper, right? When I think about someone in my life, I think about my partner, my wife. She's an amazing woman. She teaches at the university here on race and gender and politics. And she's an amazing person, not just intellectually, because she's way smarter than I am, but it's just amazing to see her try to apply that research, try to make things better. She's actually in the process right now of trying to create one database of every candidate that has run for public office. We've never had that before, right? She's in the middle. It's almost like the Apollo project of political information. She's in the middle of trying to create that. And I think that's an important relationship to me, not only because we have kids together and it's important to do that, but it's just, she inspires me to want to keep making this world better, to do stuff. Like, she's smart. She's using it that way. What am I doing? Besides, being on virtual cameras and stuff. So that's my story shared with you. I want you, Peanut Butter, take 90 seconds, talk about a relationship, a friend, a family member, or maybe somebody who inspires you that you have a connection with. Share that story. You got it? 90 seconds. Let's go.
So Sherry, talk about a relationship. Yep, it's so jelly. They're on the move.
They're on the move. Thanks, Corey.
I have these, Max. I printed them.
Okay. All right, let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
All right. Give me, let me just hear from one more person here. Peanut Butter hasn't shared. All right, check in with your partner. Is it cool? Is it cool if I share?
Check in with your partner. Is it cool to share?
And then, if you can share, I would love to hear one story about a relationship that's important and why that relationship matters.
All right, Autumn.
So I really talked about his mom gave him life and raised him.
So it's the relationship is the mom. The mom gave him life and raised him.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for doing that. we've gone through four different gifts, right?
Yep.
And I'm trying to find the right screen here. So we shared again. It's hand, head, heart, and human. And when we look at individuals, if we want to take an assets lens and looking at somebody, right, we just did similar to what Damon Lynch does at his congregation in Cincinnati, Ohio. You guys did this with each other. What's the gift that you have of your hand, the gift of your head, your heart, and your human? Let me check in with you right now. You did this, and we only did it one way, right? You know, we only did it one way, so we didn't do it for both sides. But I want to check in with, let me check in with the jellies in the room. And I want to get a reflection on what you discovered in being with your partner. So when I say discovered, what did something surprise you in this exchange that you just had? Did you feel something that affirmed? Maybe something like, oh man, I was reminded of this. So I was surprised about this, or I was reminded about this. Would love to hear sort of the act of sharing your gifts. I would love to hear one or two comments from the jellies out there on what they discovered as a result of this.
For me, it's not, you don't get asked to talk about your strengths a lot, so it's kind of nice. Like as I was going, I was like, oh, I actually have more than I think I have to offer. But then actually towards the end, I was like, I want to know about Dylan. So if, you know, if I get to sit here and say a lot, it's kind of unfortunate I didn't get to reciprocate. So.
Did you hear that, Mac?
Yeah. So I want to make sure I heard you. You discovered, wow, I do have a lot of these gifts. At the same time, there's a sense of, well, when do I get to know about this person's gifts? What's up with that? What's going on? And I would say that's more of a construct of our time together. You're right. And my charge for you is at lunch today, find a way to reciprocate and maybe have lunch with your buddy and find out about that. So that's a possibility. Invitation. You don't have to. But yeah, definitely recognizing our time together. I was only able to structure it so it was one way. What is another jelly out there? Was it discovery or surprise?
Oh no, Olivia took my answer.
Oh really?
Yeah, because as I was talking, I started to want to know more about you. You know, it felt like I was just talking. I was over talking. I wanted to, you know, turn the question around immediately and ask him, so what about you?
Yeah. So you kept thinking, I'm talking too much. What's going on? I'm talking too much. It's uncomfortable. Yeah.
Paul.
I noticed that there's kind of room for improvement. Maybe like some other things I can learn and think questions.
Room for improvement. Take some other gifts.
Yeah.
And learn.
Great. Thanks for noticing this, Jelly. And again, for the folks out there, I love that comment of like, okay, well, when do I get to know about the other person? I'm going to challenge you that anytime you get that space or time for you to be about yourself, you be present to that. You do that. I totally get it. I'm the same way. Like it's uncomfortable to be that vulnerable and open. But here's the invitation or challenge, right? Is that when you get that space, practice getting more vulnerable and being comfortable with it. Because the reality is you're modeling it. The more that you can do it yourself, it's going to invite other people around you to take it to that level as well. So that's just a nudge I want to invite you. And again, it might be veering into Oprah Iyanla self-helping. So I get it. It kind of gets woo-woo. We're getting there a little bit. But I will say it's real. Like it's present in the work because it is person to person. Right, so I just want to acknowledge there is this art about it, that authenticity matters, presence matters. So even in this exchange, do your best. If you're being invited to share, like own it, because you only get 2 minutes to do it. Like the previous commenter said, oh man, like nobody ever asked me. Well, shoot, you're right. Nobody's going to ask you for it, but you darn well be better aware of what you got, so you're ready to share. Let me check in with some peanut butters out there. What surprised you, or what did you discover about yourself in the act of listening and the act of taking notes? What was a surprise you, or what did you discover, or what were you affirmed? Want to hear one or two comments?
From peanut butter, what did you hear? What did you discover? Ellen, and then Nikhil.
I knew how to summarize better than I thought.
Good. Nice. Good. What else?
But me and Jelly had a lot of the same interests and passions.
Yeah. Right. That was a surprise. Right? Like, oh, I didn't know you're into this stuff. That's awesome.
Done.
Great.
A lot of people like, go, ask more questions. What about that?
Yeah, he wanted to go deeper. Ask more questions.
Yeah, right.
Specific.
We only did 90 minutes. We only did 90 seconds. Right? And we contain multitudes, as Walt Whitman once said, right? There's so much to us. Right? But think about your day-to-day. Do you really spend 5 minutes trying to understand the giftedness of people around you? You don't. You don't. You don't. The challenge is, how do you do that? How do you do that more and more? That, if you're able to do that, that is you using an assets focus more. Again, back to lenses. It's you putting on the set of lenses. Who is this person next to me? Who is the person in the cube away from me? Do I know their gifts? Or do they just annoy me because they chew too loud when they eat at their desk? Right? Do we focus on what's wrong with them? Right? When you guys are in team service project teams, right? You can divide into team service project teams. That's going to be your test of having an assets focus with each other. Right? Because I know from my own team service project experience, I was like, dude, I'm the smartest guy in this room. Shut up. I know what we're doing. That's going to happen. And because they all did a good job of picking you all will think that simultaneously at some point during this. Because you all have healthy self. I get it, right? But the challenge is how do you look and try to unlock each other's gifts in the space? Let me pause. We were talking about the gifts of individuals, and really my presentation is going to be focused around that. I want to check in and hear some comments. Okay, so what we did so far is I provided you an outline of 2 maps. I showed you how the maps played out in real life. Cincinnati Welfare, the Reverend David Lynch's congregation. And then we actually practiced in real time using an assets focus one-on-one. I want to hear a couple comments. What do you think is the, where do you see the application of this one-on-one take as you go through your work, perhaps at your placement, or perhaps in the work in the community? Just want to hear, what do you think are the ramifications for you in having this work? What are you discovering right now?
Did you hear the question? So looking at those 2 maps, what do you think are the ramifications as we go forward with this work?
I think you'll find a lot of talents that people have that they just haven't uncovered until you ask the questions.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear that, Matt?
Yeah, you're going to uncover more talents you might not be aware of, right? Right? The people that you're supposed to be serving, right, might actually have all the solutions, right? So how do you get those solutions, right? And from what we've learned is that if the people involved co-create the solution, that's going to be more sustainable. It's going to stick, as opposed to putting a solution onto somebody. So that comment, hopefully, to me, I resonate with that comment. I do think it will unlock talents, which can make your work stick better, longer than 10 months. What are other discoveries of the ramifications of this in your work? We'd love to hear another couple comments.
Will, Dylan, and Olivia.
Well, I think another thing you'll learn in this, another thing you'll discover is like people want the same thing. They want equality, they want justice, they want better communities. We all have the same common thing, no matter what part of the world you're coming from. We all want the same thing.
That's a pretty powerful insight, right? And here's the challenge, right? I think on some level I agree with you that we want equity, right? We want safety, we want these things. I think the rub is a lot of people have different takes on how to get there, how to do it, right? And that's your challenge, right? As an ally to this process, it's just making it easier to get to that end result, right? When people in the room are like, well, I think we should do it this way. Well, I think we should do it this way. I think we should do it this way, right? What are you doing to move the group forward so you actually get there, as opposed to being fixated on the different techniques? That's a great insight. You had a couple more people. What are the other insights in the room?
With this focus on the individual and the individual's gifts, I think that the volunteers that my organization is approaching and engaging, I think those volunteers will feel more engaged, and that is going to build a stronger community relationship.
Awesome. That's a great insight. Like, people wonder about, volunteer management is an industry and not, it's a sub-industry, right? There are conferences devoted to people who are like, how do I organize volunteers and how do I get volunteers, right? And what you suggested is this is not a transaction. Hey, you go pick up, can you come and pick up garbage? Can you come in and fill in these envelopes? Yes, these are things that our organization might need people to volunteer for, but you're opening a possibility is, what if somebody who shares our mission, who's interested in doing our mission, what if we learn what they're good at and we unlock them to do that work with us? That's, if you can figure out how to systematize that and master that, then they will be asking you to speak at those volunteer conferences, because that's the difference, right? That's the difference. If you can leverage people in a way that they're reaching their heart goals, their gifts of the heart. If you leverage people that you're getting them to their heart goals, but at the same time you're leveraging their hand and head gifts at the same time towards this effort, if you're good at facilitating that, that's awesome. Right? That's it. That's on point. Thanks for sharing that. There was one more comment out there.
Yeah, it's actually kind of similar to what Dylan was saying in that when you're looking at assets, there's a lot more potential for growth. So you're not just maybe helping that one person, but you see what they have to offer and they can expand that way. So we talk about capacity building, and it goes along with sustainability. Like, if you can expand through the person that you may be initially helping, I mean, there's endless potential there.
Yeah. The opportunity for growth, opportunity for discovering what might be it. And again, what I'm hearing in your comments is that we're knowing that people are not cookie cutter, right? It's not like, oh, I've got this program, it fits you, right? What you're understanding is, what is this person aspiring for? What are they great at? And how can we leverage that to amplify what's already great going? That's growth. That's possibility, right? And again, we're talking about lenses. Again, I want you to be more in the lens of that. I'm not saying there's not a place for prescription solutions, right? If I hurt my elbow, right, and I go to the doctor and he's like, well, Matt, tell me about all the languages you speak. That could fix your elbow. Like, no, we're not talking about that, right? There might be a fix for my elbow, right? So I'm not saying there are not solutions or times that you need to look at, okay, we need to fix this right now. What I'm challenging you is to make sure that there's a space, and you might have to lead with this more than not, because we're so used to the deficiencies, is how do we look at people's giftedness, how do we look at a community's giftedness, an institution's giftedness. And I started getting with individuals today, with you, as our time winds down, is because, again, what are associations comprised of? Individuals. What are organizations, what are institutions comprised of? Individuals, right? It's the base unit of everything in our society does come back to an individual, right? So if you're able to vibe and connect and surface people's giftedness on an individual level, you can apply those skills towards looking at, okay, well, tell me about this association. What can that do? Tell me about this bank, right? Like, it's interchangeable. But my belief is you got to be good at the one-on-one. You got to be good at that individual level, so you can apply it to those other things. Okay, so as we wind down, I'm going to share down a couple thoughts about the two approaches. I want to remind you, we talked about two approaches today. One is, again, a needs-based focus, right? What are services we can provide? Who's going to buy this service? We need to build a program, right, to reach these consumers. And what I'm offering you is, I want you to challenge to push towards an asset focus. How do we connect people so that they're going to contribute? And when we look at people as citizens, I want to be very measured. That's not, citizen is the way I define citizen is someone who's ready to share, someone to take on responsibility, right? I'm not looking at the sort of political definition that Washington sometimes we struggle with. I'm talking about someone who wants to take on stuff, right? And it's about connecting people. okay? It's about connecting people, right? And so, you know, I'm going to share with you, you know, as we wind down here, I do have some other slides we didn't get to today, but they'll talk about how do you look at institutions, how you look at and how you look at associations. So, you know, Corey can share that with you. I also have a great summary from one of our other folks in the network that, you know, there's another handout there that if you're interested more about definitions and stuff, you can get that there. So I had that with Corey. She can print that out for you to share. But my hope is that the very essence on a one-on-one level that you get used to using this frame and get comfortable with this frame and recognize that it's going to take some risk to use this frame, because it's going to take some risk because a lot of the world out there doesn't use it. And two, it takes time. You only had 8 minutes and some of you are like, I want to know more. I need to dig deeper. You're right, it takes time to build relationships, build trust. You know, in Public Allies here at the alumni office, right, I work virtually. So I'm trying to work with 5,600 alum from around the country. And so I want to share with you one tool we've developed, just rolled out, to help us map, if you will, the assets of our alumni network. It's called the Rockstars Registry, right? We didn't want to have a Hall of Fame because the Hall of Fame means you're done, right? Like you get in the Hall of Fame when your career is over. No, I'm not about that, right? I want to know, but people are wondering, Matt, who are the rock stars? Who's killing it in the alumni network? So what we did over the past year and a half is we surveyed our local sites to ask them, who would you nominate to be a rock star? And we also asked, you know, we also looked at people that are involved in our national initiatives. We asked them, you know, who wants to say they're going to step up and be part of this, who want to be part of a national network, and they want to share with each other. So we created this space called the that alumnirockstars.publicallies.org. You can access it too. You don't have to be an alum to get it. Anybody can get there. And so what we have is about 200 people in this list, and you can search by people's name. You can search by people's category that they're interested, gifts of the heart, if you will, or gifts of the head. These are topics that are people interested in knowledge. You can search by geographic location. And then we also have national initiatives that you can search by. But let's go to Minnesota. So who's that? So you go find alumni, and then we find out in Minnesota, Paul Schwarzkopf, Brian Schachtel, Lauren Gutierrez, Sonia Boyd, Carrie Berg. Right, we've got 5 folks in Minnesota. Let's dig deeper. Let's learn more about Lauren. You click on Lauren's name, right? And then now you see these are the issues she's interested in. And this is where you can find her. You can email her directly or get her at LinkedIn. All right? So I share this with you right now. If there's alumni that you want to get to know better, these are alumni who have all agreed that they're welcome to be reached out. You can reach out to them on LinkedIn. You're like, hey, I'm a public ally. I want to know more about this work. They'll be ready for you. They want to talk to you. They're open for it. They signed up for it. We're going to keep adding this list. But there's a reason not all 5,600 people are in that list, because they're not all rock stars. Right? Just because you finish 10 months doesn't mean you get to be in, you know, you get to be featured on it. It's about making a commitment to being open to be connecting, and then you're still active in applying the values in your practice. So I want to introduce that tool to you. I want to invite you to use that tool if you want to get to know people. If you're to ask me advice, Mac, how to make this year work for me, start building out your network now. By the end of this year, I expect you to be able to map out 30 individuals that you could do work with. What I mean you could do work with is you could advance towards your goals professionally or your heart goals. You should be able to do 30. Shoot, you got 40 people in the room right now, so I might be undercutting you, right? But I'm talking, who are the people in Minnesota? Who are the people in the country? And those people I showed you on that list, they're all top public allies, so they already want to be on your team. So that's a little bit of a challenge to you. How are you mapping out your network? And more importantly, how are you making sure you're feeding that network so you're important to them? So when you call on them, that they're going to be willing to answer to you. So I want to share with you, that's one of the ways we're trying to make a virtual asset map of our and we're trying to grow that out. I want to pause to see if there's any questions that you may have about asset-based development, the approach. And I realized we did kind of a light, this was like the mozzarella cheese sticks. This wasn't the entree, you know, it was a bit of an introduction. But We'll want to see if you have any questions about that, or you have any questions in general about public allies that I can answer. We have a little time for that. Or comments. Shock or outrage. Welcome cries of shock or outrage.
Cries of shock or outrage, that's what it said.
I like your energy.
If it comes out on video, this room right now, it's sweating. I'm sweating all over this room right now. It's like messy. Thanks for noticing that. Thank you for noticing that.
Any questions about public allies or about the concept that you just learned today from Mac?
He was awesome. He was so on point that
They said you were so on point that there's no questions to ask.
Okay. My charge for you all right now, even though you're public allies right now, if you're on LinkedIn, go look for us. Look for the Public Allies Alumni Group. Even though you're an ally right now, I invite you, get in on the ground floor right now. Get connected as much as possible. To be transparent, I do think that being an alum is an achievement. Not all of you are going to finish. That's okay. But I do think that the problems we're taking on towards making the world a more equitable place, making this country a more equitable place, we're going to need all hands on deck. So I invite you to start getting connected now. And I want to get to know you. I want to know how we can leverage you. I want to know how you can leverage us to get somewhere better. It's AmeriCorps' 20th anniversary this past year. On Friday, we're celebrating AmeriCorps' 20th anniversary. Okay. They just recognized 20 people that represent, over the last 20 years, the best of AmeriCorps. 2 of those people are Public Allies alumni. Right? That's pretty good. Right? Out of 900,000 people they could have picked, 2 of them are Public Allies alumni, right? We got them on that list. What I mean is we nominated them. We advocated for them. Okay. The only way we advocated for them is that we know what their work is. They keep us updated. We know that Kelly from Chicago alum is now a nationally recognized spoken word performer who's performing on HBO's Depth Poetry Jam, that's creating work around inclusion in Brooklyn, right? Who's doing challenging work, challenging sort of the public framework, what it means to be the society that we're trying to be. And we made a case saying that is service, because it's changing, it's using art, right, to change people's perceptions to make this a more equitable place. And we told AmeriCorps alums about Yamani Hernandez, who's the executive director of the Illinois Caucus of Adolescent Health, who in Illinois, as leading that effort, she's working on policy to make sure that young women have access, I would say reproductive justice work that she's doing, that they get access to the services they need. Right? They wouldn't have found her just by looking on their phone. They found her because we told them her story. We can only tell her story because she shares it with us. Now, I just use that as 2 tangible examples that they're going to get recognized, and that's going to help their work, right? But the only way that happens is because we're connected. And so, again, that's my charge to you. This is my alumni plea. When you finish Public Allies, don't leave and go, well, we'll leave. You can leave because we got other allies coming. Leave. But what I'm saying is stay connected. Right? And we can start staying connected. We start this right now. That's why I'm talking to you right now. Get familiar. Connect with those folks in the rock stars, because I want to add you to that list. I want people to look at you as people to connect with. You can hit me at MacArthurA@publicallies.org anytime, or if you're on Twitter, hit me at MacArthur31. If you're on Twitter or you're on Instagram, hashtag allies15, ALLIS15. That way I can share your photos with the rest of the network. That's how we collect it and we share it out. I'm trying to create this national movement, people. You're part of it. Until then, thanks so much for letting me be a part of your day. I'm excited for you. I look forward to calling you a fellow Public Allies alum. In the meantime, hope you have a great 10 months.
Thank you,
Take
Matt.
care. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mac.
All right. I'll see you guys soon.
Anything burning? No? All right. Reach out to him on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, if you have any questions.
Bye.
Thank you, Mac.
Let's take